Welcome to episode number 4
of the Living Late podcast. All right, so we are going live to the members on the channel right now. So if you guys aren't familiar with how this works, basically we do this once a week and we go live to the members. Members are invited to answer or ask questions. And we will answer them live. But usually how we start off each of our podcasts is we start with common questions from the latest video. So the latest video that we posted to the Niblack 57 YouTube channel is the first startup of the Hot V LT project. So a lot of people were skeptical of whether it was going to work at all or if it was going to have issues getting started, and I'm happy to say that it started and it ran. And
first start?
Yeah,
it's
what's
in the video was real. That thing started up on the first attempt.
Yep. So big thanks to Holly for helping us out with the ECU.
Yeah.
It didn't really idle when we did the first start, and there was definitely some issues that we were having that we've addressed since then.
Yep, self-induced, not Holly-induced.
Right.
Everything in the Holly worked right.
Yep. Yeah, so we couldn't really get it to idle. I thought that it would want less fuel at idle. Turns out it wanted a bucket load more fuel at idle, which kind of makes sense now that I think about it. You know, it's effectively an engine with really small ports and really small intake valves. So it's going to favor low speed operation. So I would think it, would want more fuel at idle, which it did. So we've since got it to idle since the filming of that video, and we've come a lot further with the project, and You can actually see it in the thumbnail of this podcast. A little sneak peek for the members out there. But I guess we'll start with some of the questions. So, okay,
and while you're asking questions, throw up on the comments, where are you from?
Yep. We got 5 of you in here. Where are you from?
7.
No, we got 5. All right. So, the why. Several knowledgeable viewers pointed out that because intake valves are typically larger than exhaust valves, you are effectively choking the engine on the intake side. They are curious to see if this trade-off for the Hot V sound results in a significant power loss. I think it's going to probably make a bit less power, but we can make up for that with boost. That's the whole reason.
I was going to say, that's not even a question anymore, because as soon as the boost kicks in,
yep,
it's going to blow right past those little tiny valves.
Well, there's a couple people that are wondering. This kind of makes me laugh, but there's some people that are wondering if we've been thinking about boosted engines. Okay, why isn't that on? Oh, it's not plugged in. Wait a second.
What are we talking about here?
I couldn't figure out why it was so dark. My one light wasn't on. All right. Sorry.
You've been working in the shop too long today.
Yeah, I've been breathing in too many fumes.
You're not on your game.
Yeah.
All right, snap out of it. Get the book.
Okay. Yeah, there's some people on. I saw a few comments on Facebook of people saying, "I wonder if we've been thinking about boosted engines the wrong way for a long time. Maybe you need more exhaust flow on the the exhaust side of the engine for a turbocharged application." And
that's true.
Yeah,
because the volume is basically a mass flow, so you need more exhaust.
Yeah, which
Just not that much more.
right. Well, that's why they do the split pattern, cam lobes. They do a 218 intake with a 225 exhaust.
Right, but the ratio of intake to exhaust flow always used to be like 60%, just pulling the number out of the air for an NA engine, whereas a turbo or a supercharged engine should be somewhere like an 80% flow difference. So,
yeah, I would think the turbine is still going to be the restriction. You might get the air out of the cylinder better, but you're still going to hit that turbine. And
the whole thing's going to have its own restriction.
Yeah.
The adapter plate, the small intake valve, but you know what? It's still going to be fun, and it's going to do burnouts.
Yep.
It's going to go
make
silly sounds. So
we're definitely going to want to have a compressor that's more set up for high head and not as much flow. That way, the map's going to be taller than it is going to be wide, I would think, because we're going to have to make more pressure to get the air past the smaller valve.
Potentially.
So, I don't know if the turbos that we have are really set up for that, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be all right. All right. Next, fuel and timing. A common question is how you manage the fuel delivery, ignition, and timing to make it run so smoothly. That the first startup was literally just whatever the base Holley LS tune that they have in the. So when you set up a Holley Dominator, they have base tunes that you can select from. It was just the base tune with a couple tweaks here or there, just for the weirdness of the combination. Set the injector size, set the oil pressure sensor scaling, and that kind of stuff. It was literally just like whatever the base tune had in it. Now I would, as far as like what it needs, like for when we get it, more dialed in, I would think this engine probably would want less timing than typical.
First off, you got a lot more compression.
Right.
And you got a lot more efficient combustion chambers.
Right.
So this thing's going to probably have the least amount of timing of anything we've ever done.
Well, and if you think back to like when we were doing the VK, we had the smaller turbo on it, the more restrictive hot side, and it took more ignition timing.
Yep.
Whereas when we freed up the exhaust, it took less ignition timing. So I would think, since we have a large exhaust valve, it probably is going to want quite a bit less timing than a typical setup.
I bet the valves make no difference. I bet it's all in the turbos because it's got two of them.
Yeah, but
I'll bet you chocolate shake on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to get it onto the dyno and see what kind. I mean, obviously, we usually start with pretty conservative ignition timing, and it's going to be interesting to see where we end up, because I would expect it to want less. So, evening, gents. How's it going? I need to bring up the stream. See who we got in here.
And where they're from. We asked where they're from.
It's Sean Devine.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going? I like the new shifter.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Heat concerns. There are several questions and concerns regarding whether the intake area, now the exhaust, can withstand the extreme heat without cracking or failing over time. Well, we had a discussion with your friend Greg, our friend Greg, and he thinks it's going to be fine. So
he recommended that we hone the intake guide and get a little bit more clearance.
Yeah. So Greg is a friend of us. He does a lot of dirt track racing, and he also does a lot of his own cylinder head work. And chances are, if there's something weird in the valve area. He's done a lot of weird stuff there. You got to kind of have to do some stuff there that may be a little unconventional with dirt track racing, if I understand it right.
Well, he's got to play within a very tight set of rules, so
Right.
he knows which limit is a valuable limit and which one you can ignore. So he's certainly got a lot more experience than the average cub in the den here. But ultimately, do we have concerns? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's still exhaust flow going through a non-cooled portion of the head.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely a concern there. But, I know in dirt track racing, they're very, very concerned with getting the stem as small as possible to get more air through the cylinder.
And keep it light. Yep.
Yeah. So he's probably pushed the limit on that. His opinion is it's probably going to be fine. But, we'll find out. So some longtime gearheads mentioned that reverse flow was a trick used back in the day for Buick nailhead engines to overcome small exhaust valves.
Well, back in the day, everybody was trying everything. So if you go back to like 1963, Ford developed the 255 to race in Le Mans, and they had a reverse flow. So, there's people that think that they've discovered something new 10 years ago. You can get on the internet and see people, beating their chests about their original ideas, only to find out that it's 60 years old. Yeah. So, the nailhead being a 60-year-old engine, I'm sure people tried that because those things just flat out did not. They had very small valves, nailhead, and bigger cams. They had a pretty aggressive cam design for an OEM engine. So that's why they always had they had a really good sound to those engines, but they were very high on torque. Max, I can't think of his name with Old Yeller, loved those. Tommy Ivo used them. They were very popular engines. So to hear that somebody had reverse flowed one is not a surprise at all.
I was going to ask something. Oh, was the nailhead was that were there other options at the time of the nailhead, or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody had something, and it didn't take long for the small block Chevy to rise to the top for small engines. But when it came to bigger engines, the Cadillac engine was prominent. The Rocket, the J2 engines rose to the top very quickly. They when Studebaker came out with their engine in 52, they were after the J2. I think that was 49. Yeah, that was 49. And that was a very good engine, and it grew very quickly. When Studebaker built their engine, they focused on higher compression and smaller cubic inches because the plan, what the government was going to do is they were going to push the ethanol and higher octane fuels. And it was a number of years later when the octanes were coming down. The lead went out in 72. But as the octanes came down, the cubic inches went up. And so the Studebaker, while it was one of the early designs and it was a very robust design, for architecture, the old surpassed, then the Cadillac surpassed, and then shortly after the Buick surpassed. And by 65, the Pontiacs had become very prominent. And then from 66 on, it was, the Chevy big block. And on a parallel path, then you had all the big block Chryslers, the B motor, and then the RB motor, which came out with the 426, I think was the first the 413 was the first RB. And then Ford, they took a different path. They were actually, when you look at the FEs, which came out, I think, in 58, they're actually much smaller than all the rest of them. All the rest of them were based on a 4.8-inch bore center, and the Ford FE was based on a 4.6, and I'm going off memory, so I apologize for not having this information. I didn't know this was going to come up, or I would have looked it up. But again, as the octane came down, the cubic inch went up, and the Buick just came to market very quickly and was very quickly pulled into the hot rod world because it had the most aggressive factory cam.
But it wasn't like bigger. It wasn't like, what size?
They were big bore. And it's surprising that they focused on having such a small valve. And I think it was either the 425 or the 401 really got them a good move forward. But I think it was the 425 which really made them take off. The Wildcat, I think it was 445 pounds-feet of torque. That might have been the 401, but the Buick, I loved the Buicks that I ran because they had humongous bores. When you look at the 455, it had a 4.32 bore and a short stroke. And it's a shame that they didn't have a good cylinder head, because that would have been something worth exploring. When the 396 came out with the 4.094 bore, before it was the 402 at 4.124, and then the 427, which was 67 with a 4.25, they bore to stroke ratio were very good, but not as good as the Buick.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that Buick nailheads would have been a hot rodding engine. Like that, That just seems like there would be a better option at the time.
They were a good engine. They were durable. That's one of the things that really made them something. When you look at, I think it was the SR71, the starter motor that they used for them, was a bunch of Buick engines. And then what happened was they, because of the small valves, they couldn't do the RPMs that they needed, so they converted all the starter motors to big block Chevys. And I forget how many engines that they had, but the very first starters, again, the Buick was a very robust engine, very good, high grade nickel content in the block.
If they left them coupled to the engine too long, it would overspin the engine. Once the jet engines took off, if they left it coupled too long, they had to make sure to uncouple them, and they would, if they didn't, they would overspin and they'd blow up.
Well, that was a valve oil pan issue too. They'd run out of oil.
I think I watched a documentary, and they said like all of the, I think it was the Buick Tomcat or Buick, it was some like tag name.
Wildcat.
Yeah, the Buick Wildcat. Like all the junkyards in the surrounding area of the test site, like they clean them out. Like the reason they're so hard to find today is because of the SR71 program. So, but then they went to big blocks.
Buick was very, very strong in supporting the pioneers in the hot rod world. They sent Max engines. They sent Tommy Ivo engines. They sent a lot of those pioneers engines right from Buick.
I wish GM did that more today.
That would be cool.
Because it seems like Chrysler does that a lot. Ford's
got a strong program.
But they don't really like you don't see them working with creators very often. I guess you see Chevy do that on occasion as well, but I don't know, not like Dodge. Like Dodge does all kinds of stuff.
They're out front of everybody.
They're killing it as far as that goes. But
so if GM offered an engine, which one would you want?
The one we passed on the way home today.
That Corvette engine.
Yeah, Corvette, the LT6, I think it is, the 5.5, dual overhead cam
You
engine.
seen those out on market yet?
No, I've kept an eye out. I think there's one on eBay for like $15,000, but
ouch.
Yeah, it's not really affordable yet. But I'd love to get my hands on one of them someday. That would be a lot of fun. But until then, we'll have to keep slumming by with our 4200s and our VK56s.
What's the advantage of it over like a Coyote?
I would say the overall size, they're quite a bit smaller. They have much larger bore. The deck height's a lot shorter. So they're more compact. They're more like when I talked to the one guy at GM the 1 year at PRI, he's like, it's like slightly bigger than an LS.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
they have a
up.
4105 bore, which is the largest bore I've ever seen on a 4-valve engine. I've never seen a bore that big on a 4-valve engine. It's still the 4400 bore spacing, but so it's very compact. I like how they did the valve train, dual VVT. The direct injection is hit or miss, but I think you can get intakes with port injection, or they may actually come with port injection, so it should be easy to hot rod. I know that the Coyotes, the later ones, have the DI. I would expect you to be able to make something work. As far as making it into a hot rod, it looks like it has a pretty standard bell housing it looks like
traditional.
It has 3 bolts that are in the LS pattern, the small block Chevy LS pattern. I think the dowel locations, they look to be in the same location, obviously, without actually having one and measuring it, you don't know, but it looks in pictures to have the pattern. The factory dry sump, which is pretty cool. The dry sump's like integrated into the engine, so it's built with dry sump in mind. It has like a 6-stage dry sump. The only thing I don't like about them is the flat plane crank. I like the sound of the flat plane, but you can get the sound of the flat plane without having a flat plane.
Like a Voodoo.
Yeah, it's like a Voodoo, yeah. But yeah, I'd prefer to have a cross plane crankshaft, just personal preference. Even though someday we might do a flat plane crank, I'm sure that'll happen at some point. But if I was designing an engine from scratch, it would have a cross plane.
Well, short of the imbalance issue that you would have to work on, the flat plane crank makes a lot of sense because you can reduce the exhaust side, and then that works better with turbos and your catalyst. Your exhaust side, by having a flat plane crank, you can reduce your exhaust side by about 22%. Because you don't have the 2 cylinders firing back to back on each bank.
Yeah, I just,
there's a lot of big brain people that probably figured that out.
Yeah, but we're horsepower guys, so like we want as much reliability as possible, and we don't care as much about the. I mean, maybe we'll have to prove out the exhaust sizing thing on a future project that's coming up that might have some.
Yeah. Yeah, 180 headers.
Yes.
You can definitely reduce the size.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have to prove that out and see.
Yep, I did that on the Bugzilla. The Bugzilla had, I was able to reduce it down to 2.5 inch. That's so it had traditional size primaries because of the horsepower and the size of the engine, but then the secondary piping was reduced because you didn't have that double hump of the sequential cylinders hitting each bank.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. The sound. Viewers are calling it wicked and exotic, and even comparing it to a Formula One car or a Lamborghini. Well, how about that? That's exactly what I was going for. So, thanks, guys. Turbo plans. Many picked up on the mention of turbos.
Yep.
Yeah, if you look at the thumbnail, you'll see a sneak peek. It's coming out pretty wicked. I wish I could show you where it is at currently. That is not a current photo. So it's gonna be cool. Yeah, you guys are. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna have a video out on it this weekend. I think it's gonna be next weekend. We're gonna have a different video coming out this weekend. Yeah, it's. I can't wait.
It's worth the wait.
It's worth the wait. Yes, I can't wait to show it to you guys. It's gonna be worth the wait. I saw a lot of people saying, like, I saw one person, he like literally asked, he's like, "Are you really gonna put a power glide behind this thing?" And the answer is yes. We are going to put a power glide behind it.
Yep.
Maybe someday we'll put an 8 HP or something else. I know there's a lot of people that want to see the multiple gear ratios and the going through the gears, and I would love to see that too. But to start off, we're just gonna run it with the power glide, because frankly, it would require quite a bit of rework in the trans tunnel to even be able to fit the 8 HP. Now we could. Can you run a CV with a universal joint on the other end?
Yeah.
It just has to be straight. Like the universal has to be perfectly straight, or else it's gonna create imbalance. Okay. Because that would be an interesting thing to prove out. Being it's an independent rear suspension car. I guess we could probably convert it to a CV in the back. That way it's, everything's hunky-dory there.
You could, and that wouldn't be that hard to do. But, the power glide is something we owned.
Mm-hmm.
It was ready to go. We had a converter.
Yep, we even had a drive shaft.
It fit the drive shaft, fit the transmission tunnel.
Mm-hmm. With some... I had to do a little bit of massaging to get even that to fit. Like that was it. Yeah, I had to pound the tunnel quite a bit just to get it to fit. So, yeah.
It was built for a manual.
It was built for a manual. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's I'd love to go back and put an 8-speed in it, but we gotta get the thing done. We gotta
prove it first.
Prove it out. It may be a complete nightmare. It might blow up 9 times before we get it right or something. If it blows up 9 times, we might explore other options. But we'll see how we make out there. I mean, we also got to think about engine management when it comes to the transmission as well. Holley does not support the 8-speed. We would have to piggyback it, or have like a Turbolamic or a Max ECU Mini or something to go alongside of it in order to make that even function as well. So that's another challenge we would have to overcome. Not that that's a huge deal. It's just it's more stuff we got to do. So yeah. All right. Some people commented about making the mouse the shop mascot.
No,
he can stay outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, should build him a tiny home. Some people said we should build him a tiny home. Others suggested that we should get a shop cat. I could go for a shop cat.
Humber's is sitting right there.
Yeah, my cat's sitting over there, but she's not allowed outside. So,
and Clyde's not allowed outside either.
Yeah, so Yeah.
No shop cat.
No shop mouse either. um, a lot of people commented that um, they were uh, they were asking for more content with you,
Uh-oh.
specifically mentioning how much they love the mad scientist laugh and the immediate high five when the engine fired up.
Oh, that was a good time.
Yep. Yep.
That was a good time. I had fun.
Well, I try to get Dad and Mom and everybody in the videos as much as possible, but
You just make us work. You're the star. Hollywood.
yeah, okay.
Hey, it's the pick on Calvin hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big Daddy's in the house. Sponsored by.
Yep.
Oh, Niv Dad. We gotta get a Niv Dad shirt.
Yeah, Niv Dad.
Folks have been saying that on some of the comments. Niv Mom and Niv Dad.
All right. I'll see about that.
It'll sell out overnight.
Sure.
Buy a t-shirt. Where am I pointing?
The camera's right there.
Oh, okay.
It's right there.
Buy a shirt.
Yeah. There's a lot of excitement and support regarding the Holly partnership.
Yeah.
Fans are genuinely excited to see you getting recognized by a major brand. They want to know more about what the partnership entails and if it means more high-end parts for the build. I think that's about it as far as what they're going to help us out with. I haven't really reached out for more, but as far as like future partnership, I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see. It's
well, if people
obviously
mention that, that you were sent there as we become more popular, they're going to take notice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy to work with Holly more in the future. I mean, we, I've been somewhat critical of them in the past, with some of our previous videos, I wouldn't say it was critical. It was
tongue in cheek.
It was just like poking fun a little bit. They're more biased towards what's popular, and they don't really support what's not popular, which kind of makes a lot of sense if you're trying to run a business. Like you can't support some idiot with his 4200, that's you're going to sell 5 ECUs for. You got to support the 100 million LS engines out there. Well, maybe not 100 million, but you got to support the LS guys. There's way more of them, and you can't pander to an audience that's just not going to see a return on investment. So all of my criticism in the past has been like,
turn on a switch.
Yeah, I wish there was. I think there's a very easy way for them to update their software that would allow you to run VVT on a 4200 and also for an LS. But there's not a lot of guys that really want to fool with the VVT. To them, it's a waste of time. It's just needless complication, and
you get
I can respect
cam
that.
so big you can't use VVT.
Yeah,
and that's what most guys are doing. Is they're going, here's the parts catalog. Let's use that cam.
Yep. Well, yeah, they're so concerned with chop. They're so concerned with getting the most amount of sound out of the camshaft, and I'm definitely more of a. I'd rather have a cam that idles really nice, and you almost can't even tell that there's a cam in the engine, and then be able to move the thing around and have less valve spring and have more valve train reliability. So that's my preference. But there's a lot of people that they want to pull up to the car show, and people to think that they have they have the the choppiest cam that's ever been. They got the
potato.
Yeah, they got the potato idle. So to each their own. So all right, we don't have any questions. So
any locations?
Nope.
No cat. What?
There's 7 people watching at the moment, and only Sean has commented. So,
out here on our own.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll keep going. All right, so that was pretty much all the comments that I got from the video. Did you have anything that you saw?
I did not, but I had some things that popped in my head. Cars and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
In my day, everybody had their favorite car brand. And, that the clubs drove a lot of young people away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you for instance. I liked Studebakers when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the National Convention, I think it was 1981, 1982, in Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
And because my Studebaker had a small block Chevy in it, they turned me away.
Mm-hmm.
And it really put me off about that. And as I've thought about, where's the car culture going, and seeing the size of shows shrinking, and
Mm-hmm.
the GM Nationals up at Carlisle were terrible. Now the the Chrysler show is a great show. The Ford show's a great show. I think the Chrysler show's this weekend. No, it's next weekend. Sorry. This weekend we get to celebrate 250 years as a country.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing more and more about cars and coffee. What's that all about? Why is that the big attraction?
I mean, I've never been to a Cars and Coffee. It appears to be a lot more younger people that go to it. I think they like it because it's more impromptu. It's more I don't know. I guess young people, they kind of like the car shows where it's like you kind of just all of a sudden they decide to have a car meet like within a day of the car meet, and then everybody mobs a parking lot and they all go, and like you kind of have to be on the inside. Like there's like almost like this
click.
Yeah, there's like a click. Yeah, it's almost like a you have to know somebody who knows somebody. Like, oh, have you heard about the car show that's going to be on Friday night or whatever?
Nivlak 57 is going to be at Dairy Queen.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't really. I mean, I'm sure it has a lot to do with, they don't want to be like their dad, or they don't want to be like, they want to be their own independent. They want to do what they think is cool. They want to, it's I don't know. I almost feel like asking AI why with like most of the older people car shows, it's very well organized. It's very like, oh, it's every Friday, of the first Friday of the month or
you get
whatever.
Rules.
Like, whereas like with young people, it seems to be
no
very,
rules.
Differently structured. Like, I don't know. I can't find my stupid thing.
Well, any of you guys on the listening to the live, if you've been to a Cars and Coffee, what attracts you?
So we got Matt Decker. He says he's from Minnesota. So we have one location. Also, Tadam says your brother did some awesome CAD work on the Hot V. Is he going to get more involved on the channel? I don't remember seeing him. He used to. I mean, he's been involved. He's been involved a lot. Like he
does Sick Week videos.
Yep.
He was a rock star, videoing and participating.
Yeah, he used to appear on video, I would say, in the past probably a little more.
Yeah.
But he's always in the background. Like he's, he
was heavy on the first round of the Fairmont build.
Yep. So yeah, my brother, he doesn't show up on camera as much, but He definitely is very involved with the channel.
Yeah. He does a lot of data crunching and looking at what trends are and what's working on the channel. It's really neat because he's a detail nut and he focuses in on what's working and how the channel's performing. So it's neat because he sends me 2 emails a day on information about the channel. So yeah, he's in the background and he's involved. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, turn your.
Yeah.
All right. So I just asked Claude, why has there been a rise of cars and coffee over traditional car shows?
Yeah.
And here's what it said. It said lower barrier to entry. Cars and coffee is free, casual, and you just show up. Traditionally, shows often mean entry fees, registration, judging categories, and trophies. More commitment for less payoff.
I hate car shows that have trophies.
Mm-hmm. No judging pressure. Car shows can feel like a competition where your build gets picked apart. Cars and coffee is just showing off what you drive. No scoring, no plaques.
I like it. Okay.
Better social dynamic. Early morning casual vibe. People wandering and talking. Shop over coffee. It's closer to a hangout than an event, which shoots how younger enthusiasts actually want to socialize. Diversity of builds. Traditional shows tend to skew toward one niche, all Mustang, all lowriders, street rods. Cars and Coffee pulls in everything from a rusty Miata to a Lamborghini Huracan, which makes it for better content and broader appeal.
Nice. Okay. That makes sense.
Social media fit. Cars and Coffees are built for phone content, good lighting, morning sun, varied cars, casual crowd that plays into Instagram, YouTube culture, and in a way stiff formal shows don't. Frequency and accessibility, they happen weekly or monthly in tons of towns versus big annual shows. You have to plan around, so they've become a default quick car fix for the enthusiast.
I like it. Okay. And I thought it was mainly just a youth movement type thing.
Yeah, and it seems to be much more popular with the youth. But, yeah, that's, I'm glad I looked it up.
Yeah.
I learned a few things.
Well, here, I thought you were going to be able to tell me because you're a youth.
I've never been to one.
Here I am being a judgmental old curmudgeon.
Yeah. Matt Decker says Cars and Coffee is rich brats with Lambos, Audis, BMWs, etc. Our oddball stuff wouldn't be cool there.
I don't know. I'm still thinking my yellow Camaro is like one of the most.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think if we showed up with the Hot V and, just park that in the middle of the show, it would probably get a little bit of attention, Not that that's why we built the car, but
I want to get the Camaro out.
Yep.
July 4th. I got to go and do something with that.
Yep. Oh, Ben just got the engine to rotate over beautifully.
Nice. Did it find air?
Yeah, so I guess a little update we can give. So we're alongside of the Hot V, we're also working on a VK56 swapped 1992 Eagle Talon. So you'll notice we haven't done too many updates on that car. Unfortunately, we hit a few roadblocks with that project. And one of them was I probably should have anticipated this, but the rods that we installed into the block, the block required clearancing in order to fit the rods into the engine. And if I had been paying more attention when I watched John Rogers' teardown video and his build-up videos on the VK, I would know that there would have had to have been some clearancing. So, yeah, I'm happy to report that we now have an engine that rotates over, which is cool, because that was definitely something that was a little bit of anxiety. So, yeah. All right, we got somebody from Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
I just lost my Portland, Oregon here. When can we expect the next episode of A Car Running or at the Racetrack, please? 2 weeks from now, we're gonna do a video on the Hot V, hopefully doing a burnout. So that would be, I guess, the next startup. I guess we could talk about future content plans.
Yep. As far as going to the track, it would probably be July 26th, because you're going to be racing on July 19th at our favorite charity event. We race at a charity event every year, and I would assume that you'll probably put a video out on that to show our support for that event. It's the Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia. Has a fundraiser. Well, it's a fundraiser put together by some local racers, John and oh my goodness, I'm embarrassing myself.
Oh,
Nikki. John and Nikki put a tremendous amount of effort into that. They work directly with Maple Grove, one of our favorite tracks. We support. They need 4 more trophies put together. John was going to bring stuff over, which is probably why he was calling. And so I'm going to reply to him and let you finish that conversation and share what's about to happen.
Yeah, we support this event. It's kind of a bracket format, but all the profits from the event, they go to the Ronald McDonald House of, I believe, Philadelphia.
Yep.
It's definitely something that's for a very good cause. If you're not familiar with the charity, it's basically they provide housing and support for families that are going through health crises. Like if their child or loved one has cancer or something. Basically, they provide housing free of charge to the families of these people. In order to make their lives a little easier when they're going through a very difficult situation. So we like to support this event. We have helped out with donating parts and helping to build the trophies every year for the last probably 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of, if you guys happen to have won any of the trophies from that event, you'll have seen some of our broken parts.
Yep.
Some YouTubers, they do giveaways with their blown up race car parts. We give them away to charity because we like to support. I mean, I have a few of them sitting here, but but yeah, we like to support the event. So.
And if you're able to, please come out July 19th to the event. Maple Grove Raceway.
Yep.
It's something that's near and dear to our heart. We stop what we're doing, we go over, we participate. So, to get back to the individual's questions, we've got the startup coming to the VK with turbos and a burnout. Hot V. Yep. Sorry, my bad. Then it'll be an update video on the race and some of the things that you're going to be doing with your car. We're going to figure out what I'm going to drive. Mama's probably going to take her, Nivlam is going to try and take, potentially going to take her, Rosie, the F100. Mm-hmm. And so that'll be an update video. And then after that, at some point, we're going to be dyno on the Hot V, racetrack on the Hot V, And then in the background, we're going to be working on the VK, getting it to the point where we're going to be able to get it started up. Super excited to show that. So it's a long-winded, the videos are coming, but they're not coming fast. With all the setbacks that we've had, the rod interference with the block on the VK, that set that project behind 3 weeks at least, after 4 weeks of waiting for parts. So that's why that one got delayed. Then with the potential for some of the vendor support that we're getting with the Hot V, there's been, a definite tapping of the brakes, slowing that down. What you'd fail to see is the crazy amount of work that's happening in the background. And I think we shared this not too long ago. We've got a whole bunch of things moving together and moving forward at the same time, and then all of a sudden we're going to have a whole bunch of projects that are going to cross the finish line relatively close in time frame.
Yep. Which, yeah, I apologize to people for not keeping up with the weekly schedule. I want to try and get back on that towards the end of the year, which, also is kind of strategic as well. I'll be 100% honest. There's definitely an advantage for YouTubers to focus their highest quality content on, towards the end of the year. So we're trying to get back on pace. We have a few other stuff that's moving in the background that we can't really talk about that has been making things difficult. So we're trying our best, and we appreciate all the support. We just got a $20 donation from Mr. Matt Decker. Thank you very much. He said, "Love the VK content. Have some beers on me."
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, which, speaking of the VK content, I think we should talk about, I just forgot his name.
John?
No, John Rogers. Then the
other guy that made 2,200 horsepower. That's awesome.
How can I not remember his name?
So another VK builder has a stock block VK that just made 2,200 horsepower, and we are so excited about that because everything we see about the engine just has us more and more excited about the capabilities that this
Eric Jarvis.
Eric
Jarvis.
Yeah. Does he have a YouTube channel?
He does.
Let's do a shout out.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it quick.
So do you know if his heads are stock, or is he...
Yeah, they're basically stock heads.
Wow.
They're a set of Kelford cams.
Okay.
Basically, he just took John Rogers' format, copy, paste, and then...
turned up the boost.
And then put an automatic behind it instead of a stick. And that's basically what he did. It's Mad Scientist Auto. That's his YouTube channel and his Facebook and all that. So go check them out. They just made 2,200 horsepower, which I almost wanted to reach out to him because he put out a video on the dyno, and the title of the video was it was like Dyno Day or something, and I was like, dude, like you gotta make the title like, we just made 2,200 horsepower, or like put that in the thumbnail or something. Like, it's just like you got to put the exciting part in and maybe he's not trying to go crazy on YouTube, but I just thought that was funny. It was like, you literally just broke a world record, and like you made the video title just like, oh, we went to the dyno.
By the way,
it's like, what? So yeah, that's big funny. Congrats to him. I know John is hot on his tail. He's putting together an aluminum rod engine, so yeah, I know he's looking to take his record back. So Yeah, Cooper made a video about the guy. Yep. I've seen the video. It was very cool to see those guys getting the recognition they deserve.
Appreciate Cooper recognizing people throughout throughout the car world. It's a tough business to be in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of content creators vying for your click, and the vendors that are out there have to be selective on who they support. So, we appreciate each and every subscriber. We appreciate each and every member, and thank you for that donation. That means a lot.
Yep. Thanks. Tadam says, do you have experience using a PDM instead of conventional fuses / relays? If so, do you like them? Haltech Nexus R5, all-in-one or separate ECU PDM for runaround vehicle, not race car. So I have very, very little experience with PDMs. We're attempting to do a PDM in my dad's Mustang to control the nitrous system. As far as my opinions, I don't like them. They're expensive. You don't really get a whole lot of benefit, in my opinion. Like, they say that the benefit of a PDM is that you can diagnose issues before they happen. So you would have to be paying attention and notice that, hey, my fuel pump current is a little higher than normal or something. Sure, it could help you with diagnosis, but to me, it's not worth the cost. But the other thing to go with that is, what if that box fails and you're 300 miles from home? Would you rather have something where you could literally go to the auto parts store and get a fuse and replace a fuse, or get a relay and replace a relay, or have some weird specialty thing that, takes 7 days to get, and, you have to replace the entire box when it fails? That's just my personal opinion on that. I'd rather, we're drag and drive guys. I don't want a PDM on my car, because I want to be able to go to any auto parts store in the country and be able to fix my problem and not have to fight with a stupid box that, at the end of the day, there's not enough benefits to outweigh the cost and lack of serviceability. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that. I'd love for somebody to come out with a PDM that has a CAN input, where I can run 2 wires to this thing, and I can say, hey, if I set a 1 to this register at this particular bit, you turn on the fuse or relay, turn on the circuit. And that's one benefit from the PDM that I feel like is kind of neat. Instead of having to run 6 outputs for your trans brake, your fan 1, fan 2, fuel pump, blah, 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 and have to burn all those digital outputs from your ECU, you could have a relay board with a little CAN module that turns on your fuses and relays. But I would want
a digital signal instead of a discrete.
Well, no, but this would be like a comms to the fuse box. You would send a comms message to the fuse box to say, hey, turn on my fan, instead of having to send 6 outputs to turn on all your fuses and relays and stuff. Right. But I would want it to take a standard automotive fuse and a standard automotive relay, something that you can go to any parts store in America and get. And if you want to add fancy current monitoring on all these circuits, you could do that as well. But I wanted to take regular fuses and relays. If somebody doesn't invent this, I'm going to have to invent it someday, just because it's it would be so cool to have just a little module with, everything. It would be cool. But yeah, I guess that's my long-winded answer. As far as the Haltech Nexus R5, I've heard of people having issues with those overheating for long distance travel. Apparently, on like drag and drive applications, they have issues. There's just not enough cooling on the ECU itself. It's good for a motorsports application, but for like long term driving endurance type stuff, I've heard of them having issues.
But with airflow, you could make it work probably.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you set up like some sort of way to sink the heat, I'm sure the back plate of it is probably aluminum or something that could transfer heat.
Drag and drive cars, people are so focused on creature comfort,
Yeah,
they probably package it somewhere where there's no airflow too.
yeah, and that's entirely possible. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to try one of these. If you're listening and you work at Haltech and you want to hook us up.
We're your guy.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. So yeah, but yeah, I guess that's my answer to yeah. You're saying this is not for a race car. I would recommend you stay away from it. Just my personal opinion. Just because all the reasons I just said.
Yeah, simple is simple.
Yeah, just keep it simple. Don't go crazy. It's just not worth the money. It's not worth the pain of serviceability. So, cool. Yeah. Do we want to talk about Six Summer? Six Summer just wrapped. What was that? 2 weeks ago?
Is it that long ago already?
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks ago already.
Yeah.
I wanted to be there, but we just can't go to all of them.
Mm-hmm. I think we might have talked about that or we talked about it was ongoing during the last podcast that we had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think Alex Taylor won her class. Steve Morris won his class.
Yep.
Dave Schroeder took the overall win with a nitrous car. That was really cool.
That was really cool.
I was really hoping he would get into the fives.
I was too.
Yeah.
That first day when he ran that 6:09. 6:09.
Yeah.
That was bad to the bone.
It was really cool.
He's such a neat guy too.
Yeah.
And they run a good program. We're big fans of his. We're big fans of everybody's. Alex is awesome. Steve has a heck of a program going.
Yeah, I think the Deal Brothers won the heavy metal class. Congrats to them. Yeah, a bunch of YouTubers.
and then that class got won by a 10-second ride.
Yeah. Hey, he showed up. He earned it.
He earned it. Absolutely earned it. Mm-hmm. No, not begrudging him, but it would have been nice to been going head to head.
Mm-hmm. Well, next year we'll have to have ketchup and mustard there.
Well, it's you're a bonehead.
Yep.
Where did you come up with that?
I don't know. Somebody said it. I don't know if it was one of our friends or if it was somebody left a comment or somebody. I don't know. Just
my word, that's
so it was funny. Ketchup and mustard. Yeah, he has a Camaro. I have a Camaro. Mine's red. His is yellow.
Mm-hmm. You're killing me.
Yep. All right. I don't know if this is we can. Yeah, I'll just ask it. Why do you use the tools that you use?
It's kind of neat. We have a lot of tools that we've purchased that are specific to our needs. But we also have a lot of tools that have been around. And my grandfather, your great-grandfather, had them back in World War II when he was a mechanic working on the PT boats in the shipyards during World War II. And your other great-grandfather on my side a lot of tools that he had that he used in the shipping yards when he was working on the minesweepers are tools that we have. So, some of the tools that we use just because there's a certain nostalgia to grabbing a hammer or looking at a wrench that's got my grandfather, your great grandfather's initials scribed into them. I don't want to get overly nostalgic, but we're hard on tools, and we're hard on the tools that we can replace easy. But we also have a lot of family tools that have been handed down over the years that do the job. Mm-hmm. We're very grateful to have that and the legacy that we can carry forward with those tools.
Yeah, most of our tools, or most of the tools you had when I was growing up, were Craftsman. Why did you choose Craftsman?
Well, Snap-on was unobtainium. That was just beyond my budget. My first set of wrenches were actually a Taiwan, cheapy set that, as a matter of fact, I didn't have a good ratchet. I had to turn everything with wrenches without a ratchet for the longest time. It was years before, excuse me, I had a hand-me-down set of ratchets and sockets given to me. So, but the convenience of the whole Sears brand and being able to come and replace them.
Lifetime warranty.
Lifetime warranty. Made in the USA. That was something special, and as you could see the quality of the tools going down as they stopped making them in the U.S., they lost favor with the daily mechanic folks, and Cobalt makes a good tool, Snap-on makes a good tool. There's a lot of good American-made tools today that have certainly surpassed the Craftsman, but it was a convenience. It was wanting to buy American-made, and it was a convenience factor.
Yeah, I favored the Husky tools.
Yep.
And the only reason I chose Husky was because I could get, they sold a toolkit. I wish they still sold them, because it was like the perfect drag and drive toolkit. It's like a box that's about this big, and it has like the most tool selection that you could find. And I went from every brand and looked and saw, do they have a good drag and drive toolkit? And I would have bought any brand, if it was Craftsman, if it was, Husky, if it was Cobalt, if it was, whoever had the best kit, and Husky was the one that I ended up with. And I kind of prefer their tools just because I've gotten used to them, I guess. So.
Well, that, and if we see Husky on it, we know it goes in your toolbox, and if it says something else, it goes in mine.
Yeah, well, that helps too. We also. We've landed on Milwaukee powered tools.
Yes.
I'm sure people are wondering, or could be wondering. I would say the reason we landed on Milwaukee was because they have the most availability for anything you could think of.
Their batteries are the best, too.
Yeah, their batteries work really well.
The batteries fall out after a certain amount of time. The Makita turned out to have a really good grinder. I like their grinder for a plug-in, but for a battery-powered tool, I like the Milwaukee the best.
Well, it's also nice that, everybody has Milwaukee, it seems.
Yeah.
So, anytime it's either, you'll sometimes see DeWalt, but most of the time, people have Milwaukee. So, if you're at the racetrack and your impact died, chances are the guy pitted next to you has a battery you could borrow real quick and, get the job done. So, I would say we chose Milwaukee. We started with Rigid because I like that Rigid I think they had lifetime warranty on their batteries. and that's why I originally started to buy the rigid stuff. But then after seeing how many people were going with the Milwaukee stuff, that's how we ended up. I mean, we've literally never had a battery go bad, other than, excuse me, we had one that physically came apart. One Milwaukee battery, like the screws stripped out of the battery, and but yeah, other than that, we haven't really had any battery failures. So,
a couple charger failures, but
yeah, we've gone through some chargers. Yeah, but we've gone through some tools too.
We go through a lot of tools.
Yep. Yep. Well, you gotta use the tools. That means we're using them. So, Matt Deckert says he uses the tools to get the job done. He worked.
Big hammer.
He worked 12 and a half hours today. He's gonna head to bed. Well, have a good night. Get some rest.
And enjoy the weekend. Celebrate this country's 250 year.
Yep.
It's we're all going to be sporting red, white, and blue this weekend.
Yep.
And hey, America's doing real good in the World Cup too.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Cool.
Another thing to celebrate.
Yeah, I love how Americans are just. It seems like Americans are like, the what? The World Cup? Like what? Like, to me, when you said World Cup, I thought of like the World Cup finals.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're probably the only people that have to be told that there's a Super Bowl being played on once a year, I think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I think we did that one. We kind of were getting into a little bit of like the death of the street rod nationals. I had that as a topic. We kind of talked about the cars and
coffee, yeah.
And we go to a show every year. It's called the Street Rod Nationals, and it's held at our local fairgrounds every year. And the show used to be what, 7,000 cars?
Close to it, but over 6,000. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be. And this past year,
they just broke 2,000.
Just barely broke 2,000.
Yep.
And this event I've been going since, basically my entire life, I guess.
Because I've been going to it since 1984.
Yeah.
I've been to every one of them, and we seriously talked about not going next year.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an event. It used to be, you had to be a pre-1948 car. And that was when they had 7,000 cars showing up. So, street rod kind of, I guess, implies an older vehicle. How do you define a street rod?
Well, a street rod was 1948 because that's pretty much when the running boards ended.
Mm.
So that's what delineated the modern car, because after World War II, the country came out of the war and there was no new designs. So they basically modified the pre-war cars. And that's why if you look at a 41 Chevy versus like a 48 Chevy, it's some pontoon fenders bolted onto the side of the thing, but so many of the parts are the exact same parts. Studebaker was the same. Chrysler was probably Ford was probably the first one that came out with a modern car. But if you look at all the cars up until 49, so 48 and earlier, they were just basically the same similar sheet metal with some tweaks as what the pre-war construction was. Coincidentally, that's also the running board design. Now, going to the GM models, it's easier for me to talk about them. Instead of having true running boards, they kicked out the bottom of the fenders and that kind of thing. But the modern car of those era came out in 49, and that's why the street rods were cut off at 48.
So, like, I'm thinking of like a 48 Studebaker. like what you have. It doesn't have running boards. That was like the first of like the modern car,
That's
I guess.
like a modern car.
Hmm.
Yep, that was in front of the crowd because a 46 Chevy, a 47 Chevy, a 48 Chevy had many parts that were the same as the 40, 41 cars. And Chrysler was the same way. Ford was the same way. And then by 49, then all the three majors were. Studebaker led the charge. And you could probably pick out a couple other ones that had a more modern design in 48. But yeah, pretty much that was it.
Yeah, so they've been holding this show for 52
years.
I thought they were over 55.
I think that's Street Rods.
Oh, that might be the original Street Rod.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been holding this show for 52 years in our town. And it's just been like slowly, back in like 2012, they opened it up to anything that's current year minus 30.
Yeah, I don't think it was that long ago, but it's been a while. It's been long enough that, and I was one of the big naysayers. When I first heard that they were going to do that, I was like, it's going to ruin the show. And well, I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
It made the show better.
Yeah, but it's been like gradually just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's been, something I've gone to my entire life, so it's been kind of sad to see. It's just something I've always looked forward to every year, or something that it's just, and all the young people, they're going to the Cars and Coffee, which maybe we need to try out some Cars and Coffee.
We need to get that.
That might be it might even be something we prefer, who knows. But it's it still is sad to it's kind of a generational thing, I guess.
It is, because the Studebaker show was held here in New York for 40-something years, and we watched it die. The Super Chevy event that was held, it's a fraction of the cars. The whole car scene has changed. And you can step out for a second.
Okay. What can I talk about? Yeah, it's been, I think about like all the memories that we've had going to the street rods. We used to have this 1939 Plymouth. It was a sedan, like a 4-door sedan, and it had suicide doors in the back. And we called the thing Ralph. And we used to take the thing, it was rusty and gross, and we used to take that into the show every year. And this was back when they only allowed pre-48 vehicles in. And my dad did a S10 front suspension underneath the thing. And had a small block Chevy, and it was a cool car. The one year the engine was going out, and we just barely made it into the show. And every year they used to give away an engine as part of the show. And it just so happened that we won the engine, and it was the exact engine that my dad would have wanted to put into the car. And we got to have a lot of good memories. I used to take my Studebaker into the show every year. Back, that was after they started to allow newer vehicles in. I have a picture of the first time that I took it in, and you used to take your Studebaker in.
Yep, that was a lot of fun.
We took the Fiat in. We took
Yep.
mom's truck.
Yep.
This past year we took
Crap Marrow.
and the Futura. It's a good show.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
And the sad part is, like, there's kind of two aspects of the show. There's the actual show itself, and then there's the night show, where everybody in town cruises the town, and that side of the show has gotten a little bit out of control, and we haven't participated in the last couple of years just because it's gotten insane. But it's just sad to see this thing that's, I think a lot of, like, I think about, like, the Gatlinburg incident. So there's this show called, I think it was called Slammed Enough, and this is younger car crowd. So it was like the stance cars, the cars that sit with the wheels all crooked. Apparently, they had an event in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I think they burnt a gas station down because the night scene got so out of control that they either burnt the gas station down or something happened at the gas station that just got completely out of control. And it's kind of sad to see the nightlife stuff ruining that type of stuff these days. It's
it's the Nopi events. They got out of control.
Mm.
They were great events, and then it just became this cesspool of bad conduct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too many people with lack of self-control have ruined a lot of good events. That has compounded this. Not only is there the generational changes, but I also blame a lot of the these old car clubs. They everything had to comply to their rules, so they pushed a lot of young people away. And I shared my example where I took my Studebaker to the national convention and got turned away. In hindsight, I'm sure that had they known that was indicative of how impactful that was going to be on younger people, a lot of these car clubs would not have been so rigid, one. And two, I remember the street rod crowd. If you didn't build your street rod the way they wanted your street rod to be built, the rat rod being the perfect example, the street rodders turned away a lot of the rat rodders for a long time. Well, the younger people were into rat rods. Nothing cracks me up more than listening to somebody trying to explain to you how they invented the rat rod scene or the sleeper scene. And reality is that guys who didn't have a lot of money were creative and created that. And it wasn't it was a movement in general, not a individual who created those scenes. And the larger group did not embrace that, and it turned a lot of young people away.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why the Hondas became popular, and a lot of the other little fart boxes.
Yep. All right. I just pulled up episode 3 of the podcast to see if there were any questions in there. Somebody asks, have you had any issues with the difference between cam sensors / reluctance wheels between Gen 1 and Gen 2 Atlas engines? I noticed the 08 Plus 3700 has a chunkier reluctor wheel than previous years. The previous years of 5 cylinders used intake and exhaust cam sensors. No, I've not. And yes, I did notice that the 4 and 5 cylinders, they had 2 cam sensors, a lot of them, the earlier ones. But yeah, I've not really had issues. I say that the 7-tooth pattern seems to be something that can be a little hard to get to work sometimes with like aftermarket ECUs. I've had issues with that with the like the Mega Squirts and the Max ECUs, where sometimes it'll lose the position on the camshaft. The camshaft. No, it loses. Well, yeah, I guess we were losing sync on the red car, and then I had to convert to. Yeah, I mean, ideally you go with the 58 tooth, but that can be a little hard to find with the 4200s.
But talk about 58 versus 24 tooth in RPO. There was a lot of conversation.
I've always heard people say, oh, 58 tooth, you don't want that one. Or, oh, 24 tooth, oh, you don't want that one. Or, I don't know. We've never had issues with any of them. Like, I've heard of people having sync issues with one or the other. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that at all, other than we've never had an issue. I mean, it seems like a lot of people have issues with crank sync. Like Cletus, he has issues. A lot of times he ends up having to go to a front crank trigger setup because he'll run the thing and it just doesn't keep sync with the engine. I don't know if it's a horsepower thing. He's obviously making a lot more power than us. So
a lot more.
Yeah, it's maybe stuff's flexing and getting out of sync, or I don't know. It's yeah.
What do you think of Cameron getting the Eagle?
Getting the Eagle.
Yeah, Cameron Johnson. The Eagle.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my brother.
No, I'm sorry.
It's like Cameron getting an Eagle? What?
No.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, if anybody's going to do something with it, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's going to do with it. That's like, Cameron doesn't do a lot of racing, at least that I've seen. Like he does some. He's done some of like the more casual stuff, but it seems like he's so busy in the shop that he doesn't have time to go racing. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what he does with it.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for him. I kind of like, there's a lot of people that are like, I can't believe Cletus built this $500,000 car to just end up selling it. And I get it. Like, I get why Cletus wants to sell that thing. That thing's scary. Like
that thing, we watched it go down the track. It was scary to watch how fast that car was.
In land speed racing, where you go those same speeds, they give you a lot more distance to get shut down. And you have high speed shoots and low speed shoots, and when you start getting that going, and
you've got fast, 300 feet on each side of you.
Yeah, and these guys are trying to go 270 miles per hour, where the tires are literally starting to come apart, and because of the speed, like the tire is physically, the centrifugal force of the rotating tire is causing it to chunk and come apart. And in some cases, they are coming apart. I've heard of a couple people that have had them actually come apart. There's a reason why land speed tires for like the high speed stuff, they're like, what are they, like $10,000 a piece or something ridiculous?
No, but it's $10,000 a set.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why they cost $10,000 a set.
Yeah.
And it's just. Cletus made the comment, it's the only car that scares him, and I don't know, frankly, there's a couple of his cars that are a little scary to me, just not just because I don't know, a lot of his cars, like, I saw some people on his mullet, recent mullet content, they're like, well, that's almost going as fast as Eagle. Like, I don't know, mullet scares me too. Like, the thing's going 220 miles per hour. Like, it's...
But that car makes way more sense to me.
Yeah.
It's, even though it's there's more nose weight. There's more, so the air is going to steer that car behind the mass. Whereas with the Camaro, that was the next thing. So with the Camaro, you've got way more nose, so the wind's going to move that more. It's going to have more lift. It's got a shorter wheelbase. Whereas with Mullet, you got more mass towards the front, and it's got a huge tail section. So if the car starts to get out of shape, it's going to steer itself straight. On that Camaro, you got this stubby tail and a longer nose, and that thing's amazing to watch in person. Beautiful car, fantastic car. But that car made me nervous watching it go.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Taylor's car is like the same. Like his, or was it Jimmy Taylor?
No, his is a Pro Modition car.
Well, I'm talking about him trying to go 300 miles per hour, or whatever. Like,
Gotcha.
You know, he like all that stuff is kind of.
Yeah, but Jimmy's doing it with slicks, and so with that, you can put more force into projecting it forward. Where with the radials, they'll zip too quick, and once you lose that forward thrust, you instantly become unstable. Whereas with a slick car, it stays hooked up, and your forward thrust keeps them stable. You don't get into trouble until you stop having forward thrust. That's why you drive into a chute, because the chute keeps you stable as soon as you get out of the throttle.
Yeah, and I guess slicks are a lot more proven at, the top fuel dragsters go 330 miles per hour every single pass. So, there's probably a lot more data on making that tire last at the high speeds.
Well, yes, and the tire shake is a bottom end problem. Once they get out there far enough, they're going to re-grip up once you get through the shake. Whereas a radial, once you zing them, you might as well not even hit the throttle again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild.
I like slicks.
I like slicks too. All right. Somebody else asks, which max ECU option should I get for a mild turbo 4200 and 8 HP 70 combo? I learned about the Vortec 4200 years ago, and you were the first person I remember following to learn from your stewed build. I missed that car, so then I learned about the 8 HP 70 transmission recently, and that was the tipping point to converting my Jeep. I feel like the 4200 and 8 HP 70 is going to be amazing for a less competitive multi-purpose vehicle. And he's also going to make it 4-wheel drive. Okay, my recommendation would probably be a max ECU street or a sport. It depends on... I'm going to say just go for the sport. I would recommend you do drive-by-wire. So with the street, you don't have enough I/O to do drive-by-wire. With the sport, you do. And if you find yourself in need of more I/O, you could also do the AMP EFI drive-by-wire controller in parallel with the Max ECU Sport. So yeah, I would go with a Sport, and depending on how much stuff you want to monitor and control, you could also get an AMP EFI drive-by-wire controller. All right, somebody else says, I would love to see you guys work your magic on a Ford Barra engine from Australia, 4-liter inline 6. I'm sure you'll be impressed. I don't know. I would be willing to play with one probably, but I don't know. The Barra guys are just kind of not fun to be around. I'll be honest. It's
They got a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, they definitely like. I mean, I haven't met any of the ones from Australia, but the ones here in the States are. Um, they just seem to have something to prove, and like you like ask a simple question about the engine, and they're like they want to like challenge you to a race, and it's like, dude, I'm just asking a question, like, chill out. So I don't know. If we came across one for a reasonable price, I would consider it.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. The 4200s you can go to any auto parts in the country and get parts for, and you can't with a Barra. So if you need a water pump, you got to get it from Australia and you got to get it shipped to the US, which, the parts availability has been getting better and better as the years go on. But they seem to kind of have the same curve that the Godzilla had. There was like a lot of energy for the Barra a couple of years ago, and then it just, and just nobody's interested.
Look, $5,000, getting in price.
They've started to come down. They're not quite that bad anymore. But
so what, 3,000, 2,500?
I think
you still can't beat the $300 4,200.
I think if you want a green top or a red top, which the red top's the factory turbo engine, the green top's the LPG, which is the one that, depending on who you ask, is more highly sought after. There's also the blue top. That one's also good, but the blue tops are few and far between. So the green top was the liquid propane gas engine, and they had the heavier rods, but apparently the earlier ones did not have the heavy rods. But the problem with them is they're LPG, which LPG does not have as much lubricity with the fuel, so they tend to wear out quicker. So if you get a high mileage LPG engine, you're basically looking at a rebuild. So they used to be the one to go after because they had the heavy turbo rods, typically, and you could get them with low enough miles on them that they weren't completely shot. Whereas the NA engines, the gray tops, they don't have the heavy rods. Now you can still make decent power with them, but I don't know. It's just, with a 4200, you can get any 4200. They all have the same rods. There's slight differences, but they all have similar power holding capability, and you don't have to fight with getting the good one. There is no good one. They're all good. So I don't know. I would consider messing with a Barra, but I don't know. I mean, we're also doing YouTube content, so we have to be focused on what's trending right now. And the Barra is not trending. It's
lost favor, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, the 4200 has seemed to have waned a little bit as well. I want to keep doing stuff with it, and obviously it's kind of one of the mainstays of the channel, but people are more focused on the VK56. They're more focused on V8 platforms. So, we kind of have to go with what's trending at the moment if we're going to make this a long-term thing. So, that or we make our own trend, right? So, yeah.
Atlas the world.
Yep. All right. Somebody says, I'll be waiting to see the top speed car converted to a dual clutch 7-speed and how that works out. My G body was 305 non-overdrive, which means it has a 229 to 1 gears, or it has 229 to 1 gears. No need for an overdrive. Some 307 olds powered G bodies had 217 to 1, or was it like a 214? Either way, lots of 70s cars have 241 and 256 gear ratios.
Yeah. Yep. And those are great for like the Bonneville combos
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to have as hard of an acceleration off the bottom end. There were some Cadillacs with 229 gears that swap into the 10 bolt. So if you had to have a 1 mile run, you could put those in because you've got to put more emphasis on the first gear acceleration. But most of those are
Pinion gears like this big.
yeah, it's big. But the 214, we've got a set of 214 7.5 gears outside. Guys will run 900 horsepower through them, but it's not until they get in the high gear where there's no torque multiplication of the lower gear ratios that they are able to use those. 12 volt, you could get a 256. I had a set of those in that old cop car that I had.
Yep.
That was cool.
Yep. All right. Somebody else says, would love if you guys tackled the direct injection version of the VK56 before you went into the semi stuff or V6 offerings.
Well, we got to do the direct injection on that LT package that we got in the Nova.
Yeah, we'll do some direct injection stuff. I don't think we're going to do it with the VK56. I don't really see...
Well, you're not going to be able to inject fuel fast enough and not have port injection.
Yeah, I mean, to do that level of development, to do anything interesting with that would require a very, very big investment. The only reason that the Gen 5 LT stuff has gotten any level of support is because there's enough of them out there with enough people interested in them that the aftermarket has responded. And it's, you're not going to see that with the VK. So, the problem with direct injection is you have, instead of having an injector that has to fight 60 pounds of fuel pressure to get open, where 12 to 14 volts is more than sufficient to get a high flow fuel injector to work with that combo. You're dealing with 3,500 pounds of fuel pressure because you have to run that high of fuel pressure to get the fuel to fight the combustion pressure. So, or the intake stroke pressure. Instead of having a 12 volt system, you have to run an 80 volt system. And while there's some ECU manufacturers that are starting to support that kind of stuff, it's kind of few and far between. There's also a huge learning curve with timing everything and dealing with all of the mess. I'd love to play with one that has direct injection because I think they have variable cam control on both cams, if I'm not mistaken, and then I would want to delete the direct injection. So,
well, talk about like on the Voodoo, they have direct injection and port injection.
Right.
And I think the Corvette's the same way. Mm-hmm. It has that because the direct injection, you can't get the fuel in there fast enough. There's not enough time. So, there's a lot of advantages to it, but there's also a lot of shortcomings about it that force you to have to do both.
Yeah, and people have gotten like LT4 combos to make around 1,000 crankshaft horsepower with direct injection. But that seems to be about the limit of what is physically possible. At least, at the current technology that is available.
It's the star. Hello there, hobbers.
So, yeah. But yeah, as far as getting a later VK, I think they had variable cam control on both cams, so that would be interesting to me. Especially because of how stable the cam control with the VK has been with the intake VVT that we've done. Yeah, but yeah, that was a long-winded answer to say no. Joe in MI, isn't he a grassroots guy? Joe in MI, Joe in Michigan.
I don't know.
I thought he was the Datsun guy.
I don't know. I can't see any of that
Maybe not.
because
That's his profile picture.
no.
Okay, he might just be a longtime fan.
Yep.
He asks, I lost his comment. Okay, really looking forward to the NA62 and Atlas stuff. Yeah, we are too. All right. Somebody else asks a couple questions for the future podcasts. You have mentioned a couple times about getting into automotive stuff of the future. 20 years ago, there was EFI and LS. What do you think that is now for the youths? So, like, what's the LS/EFI of today? You know, that because that was new.
I think the biggest thing, on the not the biggest. I think a thing that we're going to see more of is on the Hemis that have that motor.
The e-torque.
The e-torque. I don't understand why that is not just wildly popular.
Yeah. I think that would make a good YouTube thing. But I can't see that getting widespread.
I don't think it'll get widespread because I think too many people are afraid of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for a knucklehead like you and me, knuckleheads like you and me, that would be a perfect YouTube science project.
Yeah, if we got two of them things and, up the voltage a little bit.
Well, I bet that voltage control is so conservative that the OEM has a 200,000 mile life expectancy. Yep. I bet if we took advantage of the fact that we only need to do 1,000 drag strip passes and dyno runs, it would be...
That would be considered a power adder.
I don't know, but
because
I think people would go nuts.
I mean, it would be a power adder, like by definition of the word. By
definition, it is.
But like most of the rule sets out there don't say anything about that.
Well, just because it's not excluded doesn't mean it's not included.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't know. The rules don't say anything about it.
No, I think it would be fun to, because certainly the amount of stuff hanging on engines is going to give you an opportunity to hide it to the point where people aren't going to know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think the next thing, if there's any truth coming out of some of this recent discovery on these super high compression engines that are low emissions, that is going to pan out.
Sky Active.
Their fuel consumption rate is so low compared to the traditional engine. I think we're going to see an explosion in the optimizing of the internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
I think it has a far greater value long term as compared to the electric cars. Not to begrudge them, but ultimately, you've got something that is so safe to put in a car that your grandma can pump it into her tank and drive 500 miles to the next point where she has to put more in.
And it takes 15 seconds to fill it up.
And it takes seconds to fill it up. And it's everywhere. The amount of infrastructure that would need to be built is going to forbid us from making the electric work well, because the rural areas have gas stations.
Yeah, I keep waiting for somebody to, that high compression gas engine
Isn't
stuff.
that incredible?
Yeah, the Sky Active is Mazda's like the only company that's actually taking advantage of
It's a
it.
Chinese company that just came out
And
with
maybe,
their emissions rate is like 15%.
yeah, they're basically it's like they're running like 20-to-1 compression ratio
Yes.
or something
Yep.
ridiculous. And the thermal efficiency of the engine is like way better. But Mazda, they sell a couple cars actually right now that they've had the technology for I think like 10 years, like available to the public, but they've only done it in like these really small engines. And people have complained. I watched a whole engineering explained video on this, so shout out to him. Um, so he explained why hasn't this taken off in the U.S. So why aren't American automakers putting this technology on a big V8? Because it would only make sense. Like little engine makes 30% more power.
But
Why
it's gotta
don't
be
you
heat.
apply this? What?
It would have to be heat. Big engines, high compression, and the heat. You're now all of a sudden you've got bigger radiators, bigger fans. Whereas
I think
with
it's
little
just,
engine,
I think it's just complexity. I think it's the larger.
Hmm.
They haven't seen the need to, and it's the same reason that GM took till 2002 to finally do variable valve timing. The same reason why they held off forever for direct injection and all this stuff. It has benefits, but why would you add that amount of cost to the vehicle for if you don't have to, if you can meet the emissions requirements? And in some respects, like that is good engineering. Doing what is less complex and easier to manufacture and requires less servicing at a lower cost, and meets all the requirements. Like that makes sense. But another reason with the high compression engines is you have to spin them, which to me that sounds like a huge benefit. Like that sounds like a big, like, yeah, spin them. But a lot of Americans don't like that. They don't like having to rev the engine a bunch to get the car to move. It doesn't feel right. It should have torque. It should have low end. But, with these Mazdas that they've sold with them, they've seen a lot of people complain about, it feels like I have to work the engine really hard to get it to, move the car. And I don't know. It's a very interesting technology, and I'm sure it's going to come. But that's assuming.
Those were two items off of that one question.
Yeah.
I'm going to change subjects. How about that 15-to-1 LT engine? The guy's running 8 NA. What do we know about that?
Well, I think it was a pretty mild build. So it's like a 96 Trans Am, something like that. He's making, he's going 890s at 148 miles per hour or something like that. In a what doesn't look like to be an incredibly lightweight build on a Trans Am, and I believe it was a pretty, like, I think it's still factory head or factory rods and pistons, and I think all he had to do was just shave the head to get the compression ratio up, and then fly cut the piston. I'd love to know more about that build because that's very, very inspiring.
8-second stock bottom end.
Mm-hmm. And he's still running the direct injection.
That is incredible.
Yep. Well, this guy also had some other questions, but did you
go for it?
Have anything else to? All right. Number 2. He says, "What's your favorite method of finding 4 and 5 cylinder Atlas engines? Seems they are not very common in my local pick and pull or on Marketplace."
Marketplace is where we found all of ours so far.
Yeah. And they are harder to find.
They are hard to find.
Yep. So, yeah, it seems... I don't think they made as many of the Colorados and Canyons. They probably didn't have as many production numbers as the Trailblazers did.
Yep, true. Very true.
And I don't know. It just for whatever reason they have the work truck tax.
Well, no, well, hold on. The Colorado was so big and so loaded with so many options that the cost delta between the Colorado and the Silverado was so small. Whereas, go back in time, the S10 was this very economical vehicle, and the full sized was the proportion of the proportion of the disproportion made it you either bought an S10 or a big truck.
Yeah, and the Atlas engines were not very economical for GM to produce as well. What ended up killing the 4200 was it cost more to build a 4200 for GM than it did for a 5.3. So they killed the 4.2 because it cost more for them to produce. Why would
I hope that's not because it was made in the U.S. and the 5.3 is made in Canada and Mexico.
Hard to say.
Boy, oh boy, that would be heartbreaking to think.
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately what killed them. And I'm sure with the Colorado, they kept them around a little longer. But I'm sure that cost got passed on to the consumer, and that's probably why they didn't sell as many.
Well, that and the Trailblazer shut down because of COVID.
That was the recession.
Oh, okay. I meant to say, yeah. Because it was an external influence. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Because of the recession.
Yeah, well, they had to make changes.
Dang it, I did it again.
That really does bad things to the mic.
Yep. Sorry. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they were in a cost cutting, like they had to just make things happen. But what I've always heard is that it costs more to produce the 4.2 than it did the 5.3, and therefore that's why they killed it. But as far as finding a 4 or 5 for yourself, they're less common. I don't know what to recommend other than make sure you're checking Marketplace every day, set a little notification or whatever. They have a couple things you can do there. I'm not sure what to recommend. All right. Next, somebody says for V6 potential, a Nissan VQ40DE would be cool and cheap. It is also like the VK, but it is open deck. You could CNC it. Also, the VR30 and variants are cousins to the VK56.
I still want to find someone who knows about the 45 to see if we can pull the crank out of a 45 and put it into a VK56 and make a 5-liter.
We need to just get one. Those things are out there. Somebody on the grassroots page needs to get a hold of us and say, here, take one of our VK45s.
Yeah. And, hey, big dummy.
Yeah.
Come fetch.
Talking to you, Andy Newman.
I need to get a hold of him.
Yep. All right. Next, max effort. NA eventually can turn into max effort anything. As we all know, more NA means more boosted with less PSI. There you go.
So something I was thinking about. I would love to find a small block Ford Hillborn or figure out how to have a, and I need your opinion on this. I'm thinking on the 331 small block Ford of going to, does it make sense to do a tunnel ram with 2 Holly snipers or something like that sort? I'm really thinking about just saying and go with a EFI system on that engine.
On the 331.
Yeah.
Well, they offer dual, one of the packages they offer is a dual throttle body setup. I think it's like a single ECU dual throttle body, like sniper setup. So I'm sure yeah, that's something we could work on. But
Yeah, I'm struggling with do we just put turbos on that thing? You know, just have the
I'm gonna have to
traditional,
twist my arm.
yeah, have the traditional look and then go with the modern flair to it because
Mm.
you know it knocks so much of the noise down and you
Mhm.
get so much of the power benefit and so much more tuning. It's just something that I've been wrestling with because I did I send you that intake, that Dominator intake for a 4.2 deck, small block
A2 deck.
8.2 deck.
No.
Okay, I meant to send that to you. I thought I had. It was crazy money, but it was probably the nicest intake that I've seen for an 8.2 deck Ford.
Mm.
It was fantastic. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out what makes the most sense, short term and long term. Excuse me. Boy, that didn't go over well. Sorry about that, folks. Starting at 4:30 in the morning is catching up to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're getting close to being done, so.
Yep.
All right. Should we do one more question?
Absolutely. We're past 2 hours.
All right. I don't see any more questions other than you finally made it, but we're getting close to wrapping.
Okay, let him ask a question. Let's give him some love.
Yeah.
First off, where is he from?
I'm trying to remember where.
Let's see if he replies.
He just did. Hang on. Let me switch back to YouTube. Wink. Wink. All right. He said, I finally made it. Howdy, could have been worse. Do you have any questions before we end? I'll keep an eye out. All right, I'll grab one more question from the latest podcast upload. Yeah, a couple people made comments about the Living Late podcast being a separate channel and how they've had a hard time finding it. It'll grow. I mean, we're kind of doing this as like sort of a bonus supplemental. You know, I'm not super concerned with.
Well, it's growing, and the intent is so that the algorithm doesn't penalize the new flag channel. Yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of time for folks to get used to that, but there's an intentional decision there to try and protect the NIVLAC channel. So,
yep. What were the biggest problems on timing the Hot V? We didn't have any issues with timing the Hot V.
Plug in the Holly and
crank it up.
Crank it up.
Yeah. Have you guys contacted Daniel Powell about making 4200 cams possibly? No, we have not. All right. I think... Oh, here's one more. All right. Is there an engine transmission combo you guys would suggest that could be pump gas streetable, reliable for extended drives? You two make some crazy fast stuff, but I'm curious about something foolproof that's dead nuts reliable for stuff like hot rod tours or non-trailered meets drag runs. Also, possibly something that doesn't require much welding fabrication. I can't weld, and even if I could, with a full-time pacemaker, it's just not an option.
LS.
Yep. That's what I was going to say.
You cannot beat the LS.
Yep.
And while you make a point of calling out the LS and calling out the Coyote, there's a certain amount of tomfoolery there intended to try and get folks to pay attention to it. ultimately, at the end of the day,
You can't beat the
you
LS.
can't beat the
You
LS.
just can't.
It's that good. And are there shortcomings? Yes. But the aftermarket support make it second to none.
Yep.
You can get headers for anything. You can get mounts for anything. You can adapt it to everything. Everything you need for it is a bolt-on.
Yep.
So
and if you can't weld, there's
you don't have to.
Yeah.
GLS is a bolt-on.
You know. Okay. All right, I'm going to talk to you about this off stream because I don't want to give away my idea. But all right. So this is you guys are gonna have to wait to see what I just.
That's a setup.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna end this off here. Thanks for watching. If you guys have comments, leave them down below on the Living Late channel. Yep. We will try to answer them on the next podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. That's the end of episode number 4.
See ya.